Hello, it's Tara Riley, and we're here at the Landscape Photography Show, episode 4, and we are delighted today to have a guest, David Marx, and so we'll get right to introducing everyone that's on our panel. I, again, am Tara Riley, and I help people in the cosmic cow pie connect the dots. I'm a small business and real estate consultant. My photos are on 500px and here on Google+. And so we are all part of a curating team that Margaret Tompkins started with landscape photography. And our special guest today, David Marx, is going to be sharing Google Earth and how we can use the 3D modeling in photo shoots, in scouting out where and when to do our photo shoots. He's been teaching digital photography and processing at the Rocky Mountain School of Photography since 2002, so he's really been doing a lot of things. He's a certified expert in Adobe Photoshop Lightroom, and he's been helping people with Lightroom in what he launched in 2008, the lightroomlab.com. So David is going to be sharing as he has helped thousands of people, literally, with Lightroom, and Margaret Tompkins is going to share a little bit of her personal experience about our guest, David, and introduce herself. Margaret in Kansas City.
Thanks, Cara. It is really, I'm so thrilled that David Marx is with us this evening. I'm a student, or a former student. Attended a weekend workshop not too long ago. Rocky Mountain School of Photography, of course, is one of just the best places that you can go and really learn something. And David is not only an excellent photographer himself, but he's a brilliant teacher, and I don't say that very often because I used to be a teacher too. So I know a good teacher when I experience one, and David is just the very top of the cream of the crop. So you're going to get a wonderful experience this evening. You're going to learn a lot, and if you ever get the opportunity to take one of his classes, whether it's one of those nice on-site things where they go out in the deep snow and for a week up in Yellowstone, or a weekend class, you're going to learn an awful lot. So we're thrilled to have you here tonight, David. And I'm Margaret Tompkins from Kansas City, an amateur photographer. So I need all the help I can get. So, and I certainly enjoy landscape photography as I curate that theme, and also a few others on Google+. So it's good to see everyone this evening, and like to share now Jim Worthman, and he'll tell us a little bit about himself.
Thanks, Margaret. Yeah, like Margaret, I'm an amateur photographer, an enthusiast, I suppose. I like to do mostly landscapes, color and black and white. I'm based in Phoenix, Arizona, and along with Margaret, I'm a curator in the landscape photography theme, and also a moderator in the landscape photography community. You can find me as Jim Worthman on Google+, and also at my website, which is down in my lower third.
Great, thank you, Jim. Now, Ben, we're up in the Pacific Northwest. We have Ben with us, Ben T.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Yeah, you can find my photography right here on Google+ in my stream. I'm a seasonal kind of enthusiast photographer, so right now I'm not shooting much landscape. I'm more on, I've been shooting a lot of museums and a lot of exhibits right now. I also run a photography blog that's based on photography locations in the Puget Sound area, and if you're interested, or you're coming for a visit, or you just want to see the surrounding area around Seattle, you can visit PugetExposure.com, and I'm encroaching on 200 locations. I think I'm still in the 180, but I have a bunch of posts in the timeline they'll come out eventually.
Well, thank you so much. This is really exciting. So, David Marx, we are just delighted to have you as our guest today, our first guest on the Landscape Photography Show. And in the green room, we were chatting about the difference between Google Maps and Google Earth, and David is going to shine the light on that for us. So, David, welcome.
Thank you so much, everybody. And Margaret, you really can't get away with calling yourself an amateur photographer when you curate landscape photography all day, every day. And I've seen your work, and it's fantastic.
Thank you.
So, and I should add here, I don't work for Google. Any advice that I have for you is based on playing with these products, not professional training or insider knowledge. Google Maps is a great way to find your way from point A to point B. For a road map, for a traffic map, for a flat representation of the Earth, a map surface, Google Maps is wonderful. I use it on my phone to find my way to most anything these days. Love it. But as a landscape photographer, like when I'm teaching a field workshop in Yellowstone, or I'm headed to the Arctic Circle next for an aurora photography class, when I'm planning a workshop, the map of where I'm going, it helps me, I guess, find my way there, but it doesn't help me know what I'm going to photograph or what I'm likely to photograph, and what time of day I want to be standing there, and what way I want to be facing. And that's where the standalone Google Earth product, separate download, separate tool, is really so amazing. What's so amazing about Google Earth is Google Earth incorporates three-dimensional modeling once you figure out how to use it. So if you can put yourself in the right place and zoom in and zoom in and zoom in, suddenly the terrain, the terraforming, arises up on your screen. Or I'm going to show you in a few minutes here buildings. Some of the buildings have been modeled in three-dimensional space. And so suddenly buildings, like I'll show you some cityscapes, are going to rise up on our screen, and we can pick our perspective, and then even more amazing, we can pick our time of day and see what effect the light would have on the land, on the landscape or cityscape that I'm interested in photographing. So if you'll forgive me for a small tangent for just a second, I figured since this is all about the direction of light, that I should show a couple of photos and talk about sort of three simple light directions. Let's see if I can get this to work here. Apologies. I need to drag a window. This is the part where I always mess it up every time. I need to drag a window over. I need to screen share. I need to pick the right window. And let's see. If I hit play, please tell me if you see nothing. Do you see a little title slide?
Light has direction.
Awesome. So that's going to be the key concept here. And as a landscape photographer, I think that's one of the most fundamental things we can think about, is that, when we're out shooting landscapes, that our light source, it's directional. A beam of light comes from somewhere, and it will throw a shadow in the opposite direction. So we really have three types of lighting. We have backlight, front light, and side light. Just a couple examples of each. Again, let me know if nothing happens. Backlighting, in this case, this is a sunset, but it could be sunrise, when we're facing directly into the light source. So if the light source is in front of...
We're still, David, sorry, we're still seeing light has direction. We aren't going to the next screen.
Let's see. How about...
There, now we see the sunset. Now we see the sunset.
And let's see if I go this way.
We see the sunset now.
Does it fill the screen now? Oops.
Pretty much. What do you say, guys? It
pretty close to filling the screen. All right. So in this case, this is here. I live in Montana. This is a sunset over a lake here in Montana, and I'm photographing directly into the setting sun. And so what that means is that the sun is right now. The sun is at the horizon, And so the trees on the opposite shore of the lake, they are in heavy shadow. In fact, in this photo, they're a pure black silhouette because the sunlight is illuminating the opposite side, the side away from the camera. So I'm photographing into the setting sun and the shadow side of the tree. That's what we would call, say, backlighting. Tell me if does the slide change?
No,
do you see it?
No, it didn't change.
Same. Okay.
Now it changed.
Now it changed.
We have a flag and a building.
So let me run it this way then. We'll run it this way. That's the trouble with preparing these presentations. Let's see. Let's go actual size. No, let's go view, zoom.
Now it's getting
How about there? Bigger?
Tiny.
Tiny?
There. That's what we want. That one.
All right.
Right there.
So backlit. Again, this is the Capitol building. This one's in St. Louis. I'm photographing it at sunset, so the sun is basically behind the building. It's throwing a heavy shadow towards me, not a pure silhouette. We still see some detail, but the shadow runs towards my camera. And let's see if I go this way. Another example, this is here in Montana, shooting your sunsets, your sunrises. If you're aimed into the sun, things close to you will be in shadow. They'll be backlit. So that makes sense. Then we have side lighting. Now, side lighting means that the sun, in our case, is not directly in front of the camera. It's off to the right or to the left. And what that's going to give us are heavy shadows. Margaret, I picked a Grand Canyon photo for you.
Good.
My
favorite. Jim loves it too.
Yeah.
There's Cora, who lives 1 hour from the Grand Canyon.
Ooh, I wish I was that close. Grand Canyon.
Next time you come to the Grand Canyon,
I will be there. I'll be on the river for 28 days in November.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
But Grand Canyon is Grand Canyon's kind of a hard place to me for sunrise and sunset, but it's a great place for strong directional lighting where we have a highlight on one side of the cliffs and a shadow cast on the opposite side. That a side lit shot is going to have a lot of dimensionality. It's going to have a very three-dimensional feel because the eye looks at highlight and shadow and it separates along the edge of a cliff wall, for example. So, you know, for a landscape like this one, I'm often looking for that side beam of light rather than the direct beam of light. Same sometimes in my travel photos. This is the coast of Portugal, the Mediterranean coast. Beam of light coming in.
We don't see that. We're still in the Grand Canyon.
Sorry?
We're still in the Grand Canyon. We don't see the coast of
That's
Portugal. Now we see it. Thank you.
Interesting. Interesting how, like, I click one and then it delays, but good enough.
I think there's a few second delay, so
All right.
but it's working fine for us. Thanks.
Thank you for the feedback. That's the thing is I can't see the screen when I do this one. Again, the side lighting, it's going to cast shadows that run across our buildings. Makes for really pretty, sort of a very three-dimensional feel to our landscape. We'll try one more here. We'll try mountain peaks.
We got it. It
Awesome.
worked perfect. Yeah.
Beautiful towering mountains in the Canadian Rockies. Beautiful landscape. Great way to photograph mountains, cliffs, buildings is when one side is lit and the other side is in a fairly heavy shadow. It gives it a very edged, very illuminated look to it. So we got front light, we got side light, we have backlight, we have side light. The last one, I'll just skip to one of these. The last one's going to be front lit. And in front lit, the light is behind me, behind the photographer. In fact, one of the hard parts when you're photographing front lit is that you cast a shadow and that the shadow can run into your photograph. You know, it's when you get those photos where you look at them and suddenly there's a shadow of you or your tripod out in the scene. the opposite of backlit. So here I picked a photo from Glacier National Park where the sun is literally basically over my shoulder, directly behind me. And it's that beam of light that's lighting up these little grasses in the foreground. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. So the reason I bring us through these different types of light is that what Google Earth will let us do is it will let us evaluate where the light is and how the light is. So let me bring up Google Earth here, and I'm going to start the screen share again. Let me know if this works. Screen share on. Screen share Google Earth. Google Earth. Okay, so so Google Earth is this standalone application, and at first a lot of us use it sort of like a big spinning globe, which is pretty darn cool. And Google Earth can do all sorts of amazing things. You can tell it to go somewhere in the little search box, and it will zoom in over that place. Another trick, total tangent, but another trick is you can put your photos on the Google Earth map. Let me see if this works. Let me zoom in a little. So what I've done here is I've overlaid some of my photos over their geographic locations. There we go. Now you can see those. So like these are from Tennessee, from near you. This is from Kansas, Margaret, or some photos from Montana and Canada. Neat feature of Google Earth is that you can put your own photos on the globe, but not for tonight. For tonight, let me take us to a place. Let's go to, say, the U.S. Capitol building in Washington, D.C. So I'm going to tell Google Earth to fly me there, and this might be a little sickening. Sometimes I get a little motion sick when Google Earth is flying and zooming. But I've preset this location, and I've picked this one because Google Earth can also model three-dimensional buildings and terrain. So let me turn off a feature here for now, and let me zoom out. Hey, turn off. Sun off. There we go.
It's full. It's full picture. It's great. We see it. The Capitol with the sun behind it.
Yeah, so what I've done here, let me just sort of zoom us out a little bit. What I've done is I have gone to the map, and let me zoom out a little, so I'm going in reverse. What's amazing is that down here in the lower left sidebar of Google Earth are these things they call layers. And the layers can add stuff like the names of the buildings, the name of streets. Layers can add, well, I guess they add extra layers of information. But there's a feature in there, like I can turn on the road names, and now Google Earth would tell me that it would overlay the grid of street names. Well, one of the neater ones is what they call 3D buildings. And so if you enable this layer, you can turn on three types of things. You can turn on photorealistic buildings, you can turn on gray building outlines, and you can turn on, for some reason, three-dimensional models of trees. Trees. Why not? So what I've done is I've enabled these 3D modeling, and now when I zoom in on the map, when I get really zoomed in, the map is going to change perspective. At a certain point, it will jump, and when it jumps, it will jump to sort of an across-the-horizon view. Come on, jump for me. There we go. It will jump to either Street View, this is the Google Street View, or it'll jump to this other mode, which is what they call ground level mode. So I'm going to switch to ground level mode, and here we are as if we're standing on the mall in Washington, D.C., facing towards the Capitol building, facing towards Congress. Pretty amazing. And your Google navigation over here allows you to pan around. This changes, the upper one changes which way you're looking, which way you're facing. The lower one changes where you are. So this can move me around. This can change. It's like a video game. I have one to move my feet and one to move my eyeballs, which way my head is facing. So let's say that we wanted a photo of the U.S. Capitol building, and we want it backlit. We want the sun, let's say we want the sun rising exactly behind the Capitol building. We want that building perfectly backlit by the rising sun. Well, if you live in Washington, D.C., and you could drive or you could walk out to the mall every day at sunrise, and you'd have a sense of when you need to be there, and you know, when in the season, what day, what time of day. But I don't have that luxury living in Montana. So what I can do is I can turn on this little sun feature in Google Earth. I can go add the view of sun. And this is where things get just amazing to me. Because when you turn on the sun slider, it will actually show you the arc of the sun throughout the day. So let me know if I move this too fast. This is sunrise. This is the sun coming up across the land. And we can see
we see black, David.
Oh,
we see black. Maybe it just needs a minute.
For me,
there we go. Now it's coming up.
So
Now we're seeing the sunrise. Okay.
So here, let me set the sun. You'll see blacked buildings and like a bright spot, I hope.
Yes.
All right. So remember, if something is backlit, that the side towards the camera, towards the viewer, will be in heavy shadow, right? So this is sort of a dimensional model that's saying, if you're taking this photo right now, this is, say, 8 a.m. Today. Now, don't quote me on the time zone thing, Washington, D.C. residents. I haven't offset for your time zone versus mine. If I'm shooting this photo right now, I'm facing into the rising sun. My Capitol building and other landmarks will be in shadow behind the sun's beam. But where does the sun rise? Well, today, the sun's not rising from this vantage point behind the Capitol building. The sun's rising considerably to the right. Does that make sense?
Right?
Yes.
So the question is, the arc of the sun moves throughout the calendar year. It will move further to the southeast and further to the northeast throughout the year. So what we can do is we can go into the little settings and we can say, what would it look like today? What would it look like a month from now? Do you notice how the sun just hopped more to the left, I hope?
Uh-huh.
What would it look like 2 months from now? Now, again, obviously the sun rises earlier in the day, so it's higher in the sky as we move through the year. But we can use this time to watch the arc of the sun up to the summer solstice. So it will go one direction, one direction, one direction, up to the longest day of the year. And then it will go back the other direction as the days get shorter.
Mm-hmm.
Have I lost you?
Oh, it makes great sense.
Make sense? Well, here, I thought it might be trouble to try and run this in real time, so I grabbed a couple screenshots when I was getting ready for this. Let me switch over to a couple screenshots here just to demo. Hang on 1 second. So I thought that might be trouble. Here we go. So can you see basically the same view that we had live in Google Earth a minute ago? The Capitol,
yes,
the mall.
And the sun is over on the right.
Right. So this, what you can't really see probably easily on the internet, is the date up here on the sun timeline. This is the screenshot from the winter solstice. This is the position of the sun on December 21st at sunrise. So if I have my heart set on a sunrise photo with the sun coming up right behind the Capitol building, December, if this is the position I want to stand and shoot, this is the view I want, December is not going to work for me.
Right.
Because the sun rises way over there to the right. Now, what this tells me as a landscape photographer is I'm not going to get this angle. I'm not going to get this shot if this is my 1 day or 1 week in DC. I need to find a different vantage point, or I need to change my expectations. I'm not going to get the sun rising behind the Capitol building around the winter solstice. I'm going to change slides a second here. This is the spring equinox. This is the 21st of March, 2013. Can you see where the sun is now?
Yep.
Perfect.
Right behind the Capitol.
Uh-huh. Turns out the Washington Mall is kind of laid out on a solar calendar. And so the vernal equinox, the spring equinox, was designed to rise right behind the Capitol building. That's that whole landscape orientation with the solar calendar idea. So
March 21st, we all need to go to D.C.
if this is the photo...
We'll have a photo shoot there.
Yeah. Now, I can't guarantee you it won't rain that morning. Can't guarantee you it'll be a beautiful sunrise. But I can guarantee you that if this is the photo you're dreaming of, December is the wrong time. March is the time to be there. And you have a window, a couple days to the earlier, couple days later. It's not like the sun moves that fast, sunrise to sunrise to sunrise. But this is what's so amazing to me. Without a three-dimensional modeling tool, how would a photographer like me be able to figure out where to stand and when to stand there from thousands of miles away? This is where I think Google has done something for us landscape photographers that is absolutely, it's just mind-blowing to me that I can sit at home and scout what day, what place, somewhere totally across the world. It's totally changed the way I plan my own photo shoots and my workshops. I sit there and I scroll through the year to see where will the sun rise, what's in front of it, what's behind it. Let me just hop ahead 1 or 2 slides. Again, if this is the photo you want, the spring equinox, great time. This is what's going to happen to you, though, by the summer solstice. This is the 21st of June. See how the sun has gone way off to the left? Not going to happen if that's the photo you want. And then we'll jump one more. This is the winter solstice. This is the fall equinox. Apologies. This is the 21st of September, because it turns out that when the days are equal length, right, spring and fall are equinoxes, the sun has to rise in the same place against the horizon. For the day to be the same length, the sun had to come up in the same place and go down in the same place. Now, you could tell me that on paper. I could read that 1,000 times. Wouldn't make any difference. But you show it to me in a dimensional model, suddenly it makes perfect sense. Does that? Yeah.
This I understand. This is cool.
So, Margaret, you said we need to go there in for the spring equinox.
Or we can go in September.
Or we can go in September, spring or fall. Either one, sun's in the same place. But amazing. Let me just click through one more example of this. I've never been there, but I'm fascinated with Stonehenge in England. Stonehenge supposedly is laid out as a sort of solar calendar. So this is the Google model of Stonehenge. And this is the model of Stonehenge on the winter solstice. This is the 21st of December of this year. Well, my sun is rising way off to the right if this is where I have to stand. Now, I'll tell you, when I set this up, I flew the Google map to where I thought I could stand. There's like a walkway, sort of a path, it looks like, on the map, pedestrian-friendly path. So obviously, if I could move my feet around, if I could move further to the right, I could move the position of the sun at sunrise relative to where I'm standing. But if I'm only allowed to stand on this path, then the winter solstice isn't going to give me that photo of the sun rising through Stonehenge. It's a photo of the sun rising to the right of Stonehenge. Here we are. This is the spring equinox. Nope, not happening there either. The sun's a little to the left of that sort of perfect picture window. But here we are. This is the 21st of September. So this is your fall equinox. Now this time they don't line up in quite the same place because of my position, that this part of the Stonehenge isn't laid out like the U.S. Capitol, perfectly east-west facing, if that makes sense. At least my position to it isn't perfectly east-west facing. But here, on the 21st of September, I'm going to get that photo of the sun coming right through Stonehenge.
Cool.
Cool. Halfway across the world, scouting something I've been dreaming of photographing, but couldn't get to. Make sense?
Oh yeah.
Let me hop to one more set of examples then. Now, I've been calculating these based on the idea that I want to shoot sunrise or sunset with the sun directly behind my object. And so for this demo, I picked two objects, the Capitol building and Stonehenge, where if they were a silhouette or an almost silhouette, if they're a dark black shape, they'll still be recognizable and they'll still be interesting. You know, a lot of times when we're photographing into the sun, our objects will be rendered, the shadow side will have minimal detail. Well, for this one, let me pick an object that's not going to look very good when it's in heavy shadow, when it's in heavy silhouette. You can't tell anything about the land here, but this is Mount Rushmore at sunset on the 22nd of June. So about the summer solstice. If you're shooting Mount Rushmore at sunset on the summer solstice, the sun's going down behind it and slightly to the left, so the shadows are going to be cast over the carvings of the presidents. It's probably not going to be an easy photo to make. Now, after sunset, when the contrast has evened out, you might get a beautiful sun photo. Earlier in the day, when the sun isn't directly behind it, you might get a beautiful photo. But your odds of getting a good photo at 6, 7 in the evening, facing into the setting sun with those, carvings on Mount Rushmore, pretty slim. But if you were there at, say, 6:30 in the morning, look what happens when the sun is rising behind you and how that beam of light, that front lit or side lit beam of light, is throwing light onto the subject of our photo. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So even for something like Mount Rushmore, I can sit here on Google Earth and figure, will I have more success at sunrise or at sunset if this is the item I want to photograph? And that to me is just phenomenally cool. Thank you, Google. Thank you. Let's see. Questions? Let me.
This is free, isn't it?
This is
Google
totally
Earth?
free. Completely free.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
So here's the question, and Margaret warned us they have to be intelligent questions, so really working on this. All right, so the navigation system, and I'm sure if I just pulled it up, only allows me to go to the quarterly summer solstice times, or are there other times? And then the question, because we have had some sharing on light, is how does the photographer's ephemeris fit into this, where you actually could know exactly where the sun might be?
Well, let me answer them in reverse order. Ephemeris is a wonderful tool, and one that I used a lot. I guess I'd call it in the pre-three-dimensional modeling time. Ephemeris is great because it shows you a map. It can be a Google map, it can be a terrain map, with the topo lines, and it will show you where the sun's going to rise. It will show you where it's going to set, and it shows you the arc of the sun over the course of the day. So photographer's ephemeris is something that like I carry around on my phone, smartphone, or on a tablet. And when I go somewhere, I put in my location, the GPS coordinates, or it even has a find my GPS for me. And it'll show me the arc of the sun, and I can sort of look at my phone and say, oh, okay, I've never been here before, but tomorrow the sun's going to rise over there, and it's going to set over there, and I have this 6-hour, 8-hour, 12-hour window in between the two. But ephemeris, the hard part with ephemeris to me, and it can be done, but it's hard with ephemeris to figure out, if you don't have a flat horizon, what's going to block the sunrise or block the sunset. You get the lines on the map, but unless you're really clever, and it can be done in ephemeris, my friend Doug Johnson can figure it out, it's hard to say, well, is that sunset going to be something I can see, or is that sunset going to be blocked behind the mountains to the west of us? On Google Earth, I can literally see it, and I can look at the time and say, well, if the sun passes behind those mountains at 4 in the afternoon, but sunset isn't until 7 at night, I'm going to have a hard time photographing that mountain range during those 3 hours. The sun is dropped behind them. They're in heavy shadow. So ephemeris is great to me for where will it rise, where will it set, where will it arc, but it's hard to get that sense of, for me, where will the beam of light be at this time of day? Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
All right, so that was part one. And I don't mean to knock ephemeris by any means. There's another one, too, for your smartphone called FocalWare. FocalWare does the same thing, shows you the arc of the sun throughout the day. Both super neat tools, but not quite, to me, as sophisticated as the modeled rays of light in time. Then as far as the navigation in Google Earth goes, let me bring Google Earth back up live. Let's see if I can do this here. Hang on one second. Let me share my screen. So as far as the navigation goes, hopefully, this will be very hard to see, I suppose, but in the Google Earth menu at the top of your screen, if you go View, Show Navigation, that brings up the sort of the compass-looking thing, the zoom in and out controls. It brings up basically these guys that we use to zoom in and out. Now, the reason I say this is you can have this set up so that that navigation hides itself, or so that you don't see the full tool set. And I find that kind of frustrating. I like to have all 1, 2, 3, all 3 different controls over here on the far right-hand side of the screen. And I think I kind of need these controls to fly myself to the right place and to change the perspective to the angle that I want to look. So like, this is a different, pretend we had a helicopter. And you can see right now, maybe you can see, maybe you can't. Right now, my Google Earth is filling in the modeled buildings, and they'll kind of pop up like 1 by 1 by 1 or light black. Like we get the Washington Monument.
Yeah, right in the center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So these control your perspective. This controls your placement. This controls your zoom. So my advice would be, first take yourself where you want to go. Go to that place, pick your perspective, pick your pretend photograph of your dreams. Then turn on the sun's animation, and that's this button on the toolbar, or it's View, view. Come on, view. Sun. Now, once that's turned on, you'll get this little line right here where you see a date and a time. If you want to adjust the date and time to make it more accurate, click there's a tiny little wrench. There's no way that you'll be able to see the wrench in our Hangout, but there's a tiny little wrench there, a tools menu. When that tools menu is open, you can pick the accurate time zone. And that's a big help, especially like for me, if I'm planning a photo shoot in Washington, D.C., and I want to really use this to say, I need to stand here at 7 in the morning. Well, if it's still set to my time zone, Mountain Time, 7 a.m. Mountain Time is 9 a.m. East Coast Time, I'm going to get there way too late. So if you really want accuracy, pick the right time zone. Now, that can be a little tricky when you have daylight savings time and not daylight savings time. And it gets really tricky to me when we're dealing with like other countries where I don't understand, what's what. But again, unnecessary if we're just scouting, necessary if we want super accuracy.
Yeah.
Then up here in that box, it's going to have an end date, and that's where you can kind of fast jump to what month of the year, and or if you slide over in that box to what day of the month you want to go to. So my advice is open the tools menu, pick the time zone, pick the month or day that you're likely to be in that place. And then, this one's hard to see, but in the little sun slider box, there are two little magnifying glasses. There's a magnifying glass with a tiny plus and a magnifying glass with a tiny minus. What this lets you do, it lets you change the scale of the time slider, because our time slider can get down to where we're seeing the sunrise like every minute, or we can see the sunrise basically by hour. So this little scale, this little plus and minus, let me set this up a little here. This is how we're going to get more fine gradations on, are we moving the slider by weeks and months, or are we moving it by minutes and hours? So this is moving by minutes. This is moving by seconds. Seconds is probably overkill. Have I lost you?
No, we're still here. We're still here.
Does that make sense? That the sun layer, or I guess it's not a layer, it's the sun feature, has a controls, a preferences menu, and a gradation of time that we can invoke.
Well, I think two of the greatest things that you shared with us, David, are the fact that you have to either change your expectations or you need to move where you're going to take your shot. So does that kind of summarize it? If the sun isn't in the right place, you got two choices.
Yeah, and I should add, you have to factor in weather here, right? What this doesn't show me is what will the clouds do? What's the vegetation in the foreground doing? What's happening on, can I call it the real world, not the three-dimensional model of our world? So this can get me to what I dream of at about the right place at the right time. But I still think you have to adjust for what reality gives you, not what you expected off the map. Would you like to see, maybe this will work, maybe it won't. Should I show one more? Have you had enough?
Well, we're going to be starting to run over a little bit.
Good enough.
how about what do you think, guys? We have David back for another class, another kind of share with us. What is it that we're going to say? Because maybe we'll just go ahead and do it, whatever the gang can hear.
I like that idea.
Well, this one's not that.
A lot.
You can set this one up yourself. What I was going to say is that there is a particular avenue in Manhattan. I think it's 42nd, but please, New York residents, don't quote me on it. There's one particular avenue where at a certain time of the year the sun sets perfectly down it. They call it Manhattan Henge. And I've seen photos of it when I've showed them to, I don't have a photo, but I've seen others. When I show it to New Yorkers in classic style, they say, it ain't that great. You know, we've been here, we've seen... But I've been fascinated by these photos, and I've wanted to know when could I get that photo. So what I did is I set up the Google Earth viewpoint I wanted, and I set the animation. That's the feature I didn't show you, is that you can animate it and let the sun run day after day after day, because I had no idea what day of the year or days of the year I would need to stand there. So I set up my view, and I let the animation run and watch the sun move day after day into position. Anyway, I'd record it as a little video, but you can do it. It'll be more fun to try it yourself. Pick a landmark, start the animation, watch the arc of the sun.
Well, that's a great homework for all of our viewers who
for the three who are still with me.
Here's your homework: Google Earth, and we'll go out and we'll try it. This is exciting. I'm still, my mind, because it does think in pictures, is like, where am I going to go if I'm in Washington D.C. on December 21st to get that sunrise shot? Which side of the building do I have to move to? So that's fun. So David, we appreciate you taking the time to share Google Earth with us, and my goodness, I now have another new tool to navigate in the cosmic alpine of photography. So I'm thrilled to have this new tool to be able to try and figure out making better specific shots. So this is awesome. So
and
now
I
we
think
come to
all of us understand now why David is such a good teacher.
Yes.
Yes.
This is awesome.
Amazing.
Well, I have to give the credit to the brilliant people at Google who create this stuff and make it free. I mean, now that I know what it can do and I've seen it, I would pay. I don't know what I would pay for this.
Don't say that! Don't say that! We don't want them to hear this.
I just, you know, everything that we do, this Google Hangout, YouTube, Google Earth, I think they deserve so much credit for making my life as a photographer, my life as a student, an educator, so much better. Thank you, Google folks.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And now we come to the part of our show where we're sharing photographers to watch, and our guest speaker would be my contribution to a photographer to watch, David Marx. And when we do the summary, we will put this up on the Landscape Photography Show with links so that everyone can circle our suggested photographers to watch. And so we'll start over here with Margaret. Margaret?
I am going to suggest that everyone follow Barry Blanchard, a wonderful photographer out of Santa Cruz, California. Photographs a lot of wildlife, nature, wonderful landscapes. Let's see if I can do this. This is one of his, the straw flowers, and this was a whole crusade for me. I had to go out and get the seeds. I'm planting these things. Gorgeous flowers, and it almost looks like the light comes from within the flower. Just love these things. And here's one of his landscapes. The roads there, I think near Las Vegas.
That looks like Valley of Fire.
It may well be. Did I? Here's the other. And
yes.
Beautiful little hummingbirds. He's just magic with the camera. hasn't been photographing all that long, I think a year or two, that he's really gotten into it, but he just really,
Oh, wow.
there's a magic that he brings to the camera. So Barry Blanchard is my recommendation. A lot of people already know him, but for the few people on the planet who are not yet familiar with Barry Blanchard, check him out. You'll certainly be very glad you did.
Well, thank you, Margaret. Now, Ben, are you ready for the photographer to follow today?
Yeah, I'm going to highlight a local guy. His name is Jim Lundgren. We have the same stomping grounds. This is the beach, almost in my backyard. So we haven't shot together, but we tend to post pictures and find out we were only days apart from shooting the same location. So once we get out of this gray rut we're in, I hope to go out with him and shoot some sunsets. So
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, now we have Jim Worthman.
Thanks. My recommendation is Ed Kunzelman. He's from Grand Junction, Colorado, and in the southwestern U.S. it's so big that that's sort of next door too. Yeah, but he's kind of new to Google+. He does graphic design, but he has a lot of great landscape photos. Let me share the screen and show you just a few examples. So this is from Colorado. That gives you an idea the kind of work that he does. Here's another one, Colorado National Monument with snow, which is gorgeous.
Isn't that awesome with the snow? Just love that.
Yeah. And last but not least, another one from Colorado National Monument with some fog. So I think, I hope you'll take a look and circle them if you like what you see. And we'll have, I think, URLs in the show notes.
Yes, we will.
Okay.
So now we're at our guest, and David has a few for us to think about too.
Well, since this is a landscape photography show, and I feel like I need to give credit to my mentors, my peers. I work for the Rocky Mountain School of Photography in Montana, and I got my job through my friendship with this gentleman, Mr. Tim Cooper. I think he's a fantastic photographer. And when I first met him, I was the punk kid playing with a digital camera. He was the darkroom master shooting with a 4x5. So these are a couple of his black and white 4x5 type landscapes. Let's see if this will work. Oh, well, here's a couple black and white landscapes. Hopefully this is showing. Did that work?
Not yet.
No, we're just still seeing you.
Oh, apologies. Hang on one second here. The screen sharing is still something that throws me. How about now?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
And let's see if I press the space bar, does it go full screen?
No, we have you again.
Oh, you have me again. Rats. See
You
the
gotta
Google.
press screen share and then select the screen share, the one that you want to share.
There's a Google Plus trick where you can hit the space bar to view somebody's photo full screen with nothing on it. Unfortunately, that seems to take me out of screen sharing. How about back to a photo?
yes, we see the photo.
And I'll show you one more, I hope. Did it switch to old barn?
Yes, barn in the distance.
Anyway, Tim Cooper Photography, fantastic photographer, a phenomenal instructor, and really the inspiration for a lot of the photos that I've made were in the shadows of his tripod.
Well, great. Well, here I'm going to share this one of your photos, David, because when I was talking, I didn't have this photo up, but this is an amazing action shot with the sun coming up and the skier with the snow going behind the skis. And so we saw some of your photos, but this one to me was really amazing. So
That is amazing.
so anyway, thank you again for coming on our show, our landscape photography show. You've been an absolute marvelous guest. I took copious notes, and so here comes a blog post with How to Do Google Earth by David Marx. And so I don't know, what do you think? 2 hours, 3 hours to try and figure out all that? So anyway, we certainly appreciate it. And to all of our listeners and viewers, we want to invite you to our next show, which will be March 12th, episode 5, with a surprise guest. We feel like it's really great to be able to take our talent right here from Google Plus and have this be a wonderful learning hour, and we appreciate your support. Thank you for sharing with the landscape photography theme. It's just a delight to see all your beautiful work and really get to know you. So everyone, have a great week, and we will see you on March 12th. And thank you so much.